back to Shut the Smut Up. Wow.
We had 2 different tones.
Yeah, it's great.
Loved it.
We're so good at singing. Okay, what are we talking about today?
I don't know. What are we talking about?
Probably Bride by Ali Hazelwood. All right. What do you think about this? I guess I could pull it up so you can kind of see.
Was it worth the hype that everybody was giving it?
Yes and no.
I agree with that.
Yes and no. I believe we both gave this a 4.
I would say yes. I did give it a 4.
And I think we also said like 1 to 1.5 chili peppers.
I'm gonna go with a 1 chili pepper, just because there could have been more.
And I wanted more. I'm like, man, she like teased us. She gave us a little crumb of some stuff.
So yeah, I wanted more spice than what there was.
It was still great.
And I agree with that. But
I did want a little bit more.
The whole premise behind the story was really interesting. I loved that werewolves and vampires were known to humans. Yep. Right?
So it's kind of like an urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm. You got the urban fantasy because everybody's got phones, right? The internet is out.
But, yeah, they're kind of in a city. They have their own like territories and stuff.
Yeah. It was just interesting that they were known to humans. There was alliances made between everybody. So it was just an interesting story because obviously the name of the book is Bride, right?
Yeah. So vampire. The prologue, literally the prologue,
is a wedding.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read the back.
Okay.
A vampire bride. An alpha werewolf form a dangerous alliance in this enthralling new paranormal romance.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, the very first scene when she tries to meet him before this wedding, right? Okay. So they don't know who each other are. They've never met. She never saw a picture of him.
She's an arranged wife. Marriage.
Which, immediately you're like, okay, I need to keep reading and figure out what the heck's going on.
Correct.
Why does she go into this alliance?
So, she is a vampire living with humans. She's working a human job, and her one and only friend, who is human, is missing in action. And she is trying to find out what's going on with her, where she's at, and she finds L.E. Moreland.
I believe it's Moreland.
My apologies. Moreland, written on a piece of paper in her best friend's apartment, and she gets told about this marriage proposal, and when she finds out that it's to Moreland.
Yeah. And it's her dad. Her dad's head of the vampires.
So she's princess basically to the vampires.
Yep. And they have this thing where in the past, I can't remember if it's called a communal or what the heck it's called, but it's something like that, where they swap and it's got to be somebody close to them.
Well, they do that with the humans, right?
Yeah, they do it with the humans too, but this is kind of the same thing.
Correct. Yeah.
So she learns that this is who it is, and she's like,
wait, that matches what was
written on
she's piece of paper. So she's like, done.
I'll do it. And then, so that's the first chapter. So prologue is the
wedding.
The wedding, which you're like, what's happening?
Yeah, where
I didn't think it was just gonna jump into it. Did you?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But yeah, you go into the wedding. She finds out that the initials are Lowell, and so she's marrying him. While they get married, she ends up having to move into werewolf territory and live there for the deal is a year. She has to live there for a year with them. And then she can go back.
So she's never just felt at home with anybody, though. And so it's interesting, her time being in the territory, because everybody obviously hates her because she's a vampire.
And they're werewolves.
Yeah.
But I think the reason she feels that way is because you meet Anna.
Yeah.
You meet Anna, who is Lowell's younger sister. Mm-hmm. And she is just this little werewolf that is just she don't give a shit, right?
Mm-mm.
Like
she's not afraid of her. Yeah. She's like what? I think she ends up being 7, but Misery, which is the main girl's name, yep. Misery has like no concept of children. Like she doesn't know how old she is. She's like, "What are you, 3?" Yeah. And she's like, "I'm 7," but like puts 6 up on her hands. But she's trying to like she just like all of a sudden shows up in the bedroom that she's supposed to be in.
So I think that's why she has that sense of because Anna is like obviously the alpha's younger sister,
yeah,
and has already accepted her right off the bat.
Yeah. So the reasoning why she enters into, like we said, is she is trying to find her friend, right? Well, her friend got a cat like 3 days before she disappeared.
Oh yeah.
And Sparkles. So, yes, and so Anna like takes on the cat, and calls him Sparkles, and like she's like, this is just her cat now. Like it's just like a funny little thing because animals don't like vampires. But yeah, it's just super funny. Like I just think, like I just feel like from the very beginning, there's like these little snippets of like that happen between Lo and Misery that you're like, what's kind of going on? Like I want a little more. Like yeah, even at the like, wedding,
there's that tension, that tug and the pull that you're getting between them, especially with Lowell, because at the beginning, like in the prologue,
are you saying Lowell or Low?
Low.
Low.
Is it low?
It's low.
Low.
I'm sitting and listening to you, and I'm like, it's low.
You could have told me that 6 minutes ago.
Oh, I wasn't sure what you were saying. Wow, it's okay.
Wow.
It'll be like.
Anyways, okay.
Yeah.
Low.
Lowe.
Whatever. Like at the beginning in the prologue with Low, he smells her, and he
like leans in and like sniffs
why do you
her,
smell like that?
And
right?
she's like, "Do I stink?" And I was like, "Girlfriend, he does not think you stink." Well, but at first you don't know that. But like when you learn that he kind of likes the smell of her, you're like,
well, because and then like later on in the book, she's constantly bathing and stuff. Yeah, like that.
Trying to like make the smell better, and he'll just kind of like doesn't really say, it's like whatever, you know. It just like makes me laugh. I had to write a bunch of notes because I don't have as good a memory as Dallas.
My memory is shit too, people. Don't let her fool you.
Oh, whatever. But okay, so like when she goes into werewolf territory and she's moving in, right? There's like a 15-year-old wolf. His name's Max, and he basically like tries to set her up. Like she's just like nice, and she's kind of sarcastic, which I love.
Yeah, she's got a witty remarks and the way she talks.
She doesn't keep her mouth shut, which I love. Like we're obviously we like our main ladies to be that way because we're kind of snarky people.
100%.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is, so Max basically like sets her up, and she ends up like popping her fangs out, right? And then of course like Lo comes in and like rips her off, and he's like, she attacked me, like all this, like there's just like weird little situations like that. And I was like, she's gonna get herself killed.
Yeah, but she doesn't, so she gets put under like house arrest, and Anna becomes like her one friend.
Which I like loved. I would have actually loved a little bit more interactions with Anna. I wanted Anna more in the book.
I could agree with that. Because later on she becomes in a more important role that you don't know about.
Yeah. So another thing that I feel like she does is after she's kind of like on this house arrest thing, she's just on the outside looking in. So I mean, having the pack, they're always around, obviously, and I feel like so she's like watching them. So they do like this big get together and all this stuff, and she like picks up snippets about what they're saying. That there's somebody trying to undermine, that he like challenged the alpha, so he's like a newer alpha, but they all like love him. But the old alpha's wife is kind of undermining him, but they're trying to get evidence and different things like that. Well, they find out that she has this little thing, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think the loyalist. No, the loyalists.
Oh yeah, the loyalists.
Yeah, so like it's people that like are just trying to like undermine
werewolves that are like terrorists in a sense, you know.
Yeah, so it's just like one of those things that they're just trying to like undermine and do different things, and Well, you end up like there's a scene where she's watching them have the barbecue, right? And she's like, at this point, she's protective of Anna, and she's like, nobody's watching her. And this little 15-year-old wolf, Max, comes and tries to lure Anna out into
into the woods.
Yeah, and so she's like looking around, and nobody sees this, and so one thing that you find out about the vampires is it's not your typical vampire. Yes, they have fangs, but they don't need to drink directly from a source nowadays because they just have blood pouches. They're not as strong necessarily as like things that you know what I mean? Like you would think that vampires would be like they're not going to instantly burn up in the sun.
It's like more of an irritant, like a sunburn in a sense.
Yeah, but it just happens obviously like it happens a little bit quicker than that. So she's watching and none of the wolves are paying attention. So she ends up freaking out and running out into the sun going to get Anna. Little does she know it was a setup. And here come all of these wolves and they're like, you messed it up. And, and so after she did that and tried to put herself into harm's way for Anna,
they kind of opened up.
Yeah, they opened up a little bit more, had a little bit more respect for her. That she cares enough to do that because Lo's very, very protective. Because at first when she met Anna, Juno, one of the caretakers, basically forced her,
was like, stay away from her. Don't talk to her. Just leave her alone. Yeah. So,
but she would like climb down off the roof and stuff to like into her room once they took her key away to get in her room and stuff. And she just always is weaseling her way into Misery's life, which I thought was one of the cutest things.
And I wish I could pronounce like how she says Misery's name.
It's like
Misery.
Yeah, she like can't say it because she's just little.
Yeah, so it's like Misery or something. I don't know. It's cute, and
that was a really cute thing. Another thing we learn about Misery is that she's very tech savvy. So
she's your computer nerd.
Yeah, like she can hack, she can do things like that. And so as they're trying to go do the stuff with Emery, right? Mm-hmm. So he has to go meet with her and he wants to hack in her system. Well, one of the hackers is like terrified of vampires and Misery likes to torment him. Yeah, Alex. Misery likes to torment Alex. And so she walks in on Alex trying to teach Lo how to do it, and he's like got his big hands like trying to type with two fingers, and she's like, dear God.
She's like, move over.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they're trying to figure out some stuff to figure out about Emery, and Misery's like, oh, let me come with you. Like, this could be our honeymoon. And at this point, like, you can see that Lo is kind of opening up in a sense to Misery,
especially after he sees her with
Anna. Yep.
Which, of course, that would totally melt your heart.
So at this point, she's like, well, this could be like a honeymoon for us.
Like, just being, like, sarcastic and, like, whatever. Like, you owe me a honeymoon.
And he's like, no. He won't do it. He's like, no. I have to keep you safe, and if you're there, I worry about you. And so this is the part where you see that Lo is, like, really starting to like open up to the sense that, well, he is married to a vampire, right? Yeah. But he's like trying to take responsibility for her. Like, I can't care for you.
He's very responsible. Like, you kind of expect him to be more of a villain, but I don't feel like he is.
Well, when you think about like an alpha, right? Like, in a sense, like you think of like this, what's
just commanding like figure.
Yeah, like not somebody that actually would give a fuck. Mm-hmm. Somebody that's like, you do what I say.
And he tries to put off like he doesn't.
Yeah, you do what I say, or I beat the shit out of you, in a sense. And when you think about alphas and wolves and stuff, like, that's what happens, right? Like, so.
Fast forward to the part that they decide that it is best that Misery should go help, because she does know what she's doing, and it's the perfect excuse to take her to meet Emery. And he's also got, is it a friend? His friend that's there.
It starts with a K.
I keep wanting to say like K-O something.
Cohen.
Yeah. Cohen. So he's excited to see him. So werewolves and vampires can't fly commercially. They're banned.
Correct.
Like with the humans and stuff, because people are scared of them. It's not like they actively interact, And so they have the pack has a private plane. So he's like, she goes in and she's like, who's gonna fly this plane?
And Lo sits down.
Lo's
like,
flying the plane.
Yeah. She's like, of course you own this. Of course you have this.
So they wait until they're like landing. Lo doesn't tell her much. Like, she's just looking out the window doing her own thing.
Because this is the first time that she's flown, so
she's never done it before. And they land, and what does Lo tell her?
So I'm gonna have to mark you. I need you to smell like me,
so that they know this isn't a sham and
that I care for you.
And we're like, you're like reading it, and you're like, finally.
You're like, wait, are they gonna fuck? Are we finally getting it?
I'm like,
are we gonna
something.
get some like sex? And what?
So it's like you're kind of giddy. Like when he starts, like he's like, "I'm sorry. Like, is it okay?" Like he
Can
always
I touch
is like,
you?
Yeah. Like, and she's over here like,
she's like, "Put your hands on me, man.
Just do it.
Give it to me."
And so it's just like this whole little scene, and you're like, they're landing, so you know, obviously nothing too crazy is gonna happen, but it's like a whole thing.
Like when they land and like they need to get off the like plane to go into the car.
Yeah.
That's where it happens, and he's like rubbing up against her neck and touching her and pushing her up against like the cockpit door, and he starts to lick her, and like
you're like, okay.
You're like, why do I kind of like this?
Literally, you're one of those things where you're like, am I sad about this?
Yeah, do I like this? And it's like,
you do. I was like, why do I feel like I need to read all these alpha books now?
I know, like
it literally
nuzzle me, like me, choose me. You know what I mean?
Okay, so, Meredith.
I know, I turned it into lick me, nuzzle me. But so you get that, and like,
so you're just like, it's like kick your feet, like stop it.
Yeah, and they're like getting hot and heavy, and
then it's just like,
away. Yeah, it's done and over with.
Yep. So yeah, that was funny. And then they just get out and they're like, hello.
Yep, they go on their business.
Just, do their thing.
And then they end up at Emery's house. There's going to be a dinner and everything.
And then in your brain, you're just like, great, now we're going to have to wait for the next scene.
I know.
Like all this stuff.
But the good thing about it is you actually don't really have to wait that long.
You don't.
You don't wait that long at all, right?
So they're having like dinner, obviously, like Misery's not really eating, you know.
Well, yeah, because she's just
a vampire. Yeah,
they can eat the food, but it does nothing for them. It doesn't taste like anything, and
yep. And so they have an excuse so that when they want to go hack Emery's computer, that she's going to say that she has to feed. And so Lo and like Cohen obviously are talking. You find out Cohen's like super blunt, like whatever. And so they go and they basically are like, she's gonna go feed or whatever. Well, they go find Emery's office and they go in there and she's trying to like do her stuff and kind of hurry, and they hear footsteps and they panic, like, or at least Misery's panicking.
Yeah, she's like, what do we do?
Yeah,
you know
like, I mean? You know.
So they're
damn, like, Lo. This is when you really are like, okay.
Yeah, and Lo's like, well, he's like, bite me.
And she's like, what?
And he's like, we said we needed to go, you needed to get some blood, so bite me.
And they don't bite hosts anymore, like it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And so what do?
They end up, she ends up biting
shoves him up against the freaking fireplace.
And like, she is like wrapped around him, her legs are,
like, here's another
turns
thing.
It like into really sexual.
Yeah. Okay, one, werewolves have green blood.
You stole what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, I got excited. I got excited.
Well, it was more like I was thinking it and you said it.
Well, we're the same.
That's that reference.
White chicks.
Yep.
I got you. I know exactly what you're saying. But you said it.
But you were thinking it.
We're the same. Oh man, but that's a good damn scene too.
What she was saying is werewolves have green blood and then the vampires have violet blood.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good scene.
But yeah, so they're getting hot and heavy, and like he is like
into it.
And you know he is in his pants, you know what I mean? Like rubbing up against her.
And Misery's just like, she's never done this before, so she didn't know it was going to be like this.
Correct.
And in busts the
guards.
The guards, and they're like, oh, like
sorry.
Yeah.
And like, so they obviously go get Emery.
Yeah.
and they're like shocked, like, oh, I didn't know that
they didn't know that was gonna happen either. So they go and get Emery, and they're like figuring their shit out and like what just happened. And then of course like then she pulls like the little jump drive thing out. Correct. And is like it finished, and then in busts like Emery and Cohen, and they're all like, at this point Emery's like, obviously she's like, this is disgusting, like whatever. Lowe's got freaking blood going down his neck, and you're like, I loved that so much. That was even better than the plane.
Yeah, I don't know.
The plane part was pretty good.
Part. So
it was pretty like, but like you're sitting here thinking you have to wait, and you're like, I didn't. This was great.
Yeah,
I'm loving this.
It's like back to back. So throughout the rest of the book, like you see, like after they leave Emery, right? Like you see them really start to
get closer. And
yeah, Lo is always wanting to be with her, and she's always wanting to be with him. Mm-hmm. Well, another thing that's funny about the book is, so vampires, like I said, can eat food, but they can't, right?
Yes.
So Misery has a thing for peanut butter. Like she loves fucking peanut butter.
She goes into the kitchen, and Lo is like making a sandwich, and she's watching him, and he's like cutting the crust off, and she's like, well, maybe he's just picky, like can't like. She's like, what that, like, just not thinking of, you know what I mean? And she's like, in her, like, you can, like, with her point of view, she's like sitting here being like, don't do it. You don't need that, like, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, she just takes her finger and takes a big scoop and, like, licks it and is in, like, ecstasy.
Yeah, like, he's like, did you just eat peanut butter?
And she was like, I know. And he's like, are you embarrassed? She's like, yes.
Yeah, because the vampires aren't supposed to want to eat regular food besides having blood. Yeah. So you see that, like, that she's a peanut butter freak. Well, when they get back from Emery's, she goes and eats some peanut butter, and it ends up being poisoned.
Yeah.
Well, they think that it's the loyalists or whatever are trying to poison, because the peanut butter is basically for Anna, right? Anna and Misery.
Yep.
So they think that Anna is in danger. So they end up moving her. Misery is poisoned.
Lo ends up having
5 days.
Yeah, Lo ends up having Cohen take Anna away, and then of course, like, Misery's like sad about it because she like loves her, you know. And then she
understands,
and then they're like in between all of this. There's these cute little scenes that happen, like when they sit down for like her little tea party or whatever, like lunch, and. Like,
oh, and the birthday, she's like,
you don't have a birthday?
Well, it's this Saturday now,
and she's like, we're doing this, and they're like that planning was right all before this stuff. And then I was like, she's not gonna get to have her birthday. Like, I actually wanted that.
Yeah.
But I also, like, another thing I felt like with this book is we had been reading like some hard hitting stuff that like terrible things were happening. So we both were talking about how we expected something really, really terrible to happen, and nothing
did. Yeah, really. Like, I mean, besides the poisoning, like, that's about it.
It was like a semi like cozy paranormal romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like nothing too terrible happened, which was great. So, I mean, I wanted a little bit like rougher stuff. I was like, can she get like captured or something? But also at the same time, it was still really great.
Correct.
But
so she gets poisoned, and I guess what you should also know is Anna is a hybrid. That's when you find out
she's half human,
half werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they think that everybody wants her. They also think that's why Serena had the initials.
Yeah.
And then they also find out
Serena is a journalist. So that was another reason why she was digging into something. But at this point, Misery and Lo have not done it at all. Sex. Like, it's just all of this.
No
like,
dicking down.
Yeah. And so at some point, like, they like end up having to go back to her apartment, and I can't remember why. Yeah.
So she's poisoned, right? And Lo she wakes up, like, she can kind of knows.
Oh yeah,
right?
she'd been out for like 5 days. That's right.
She knows I'm that getting excited. Lo is there, or somebody is there taking care of her.
Yep.
Well, she sees a wolf in her room, and it ends up being Lo's wolf, right? So he is in his wolf form, and he's this beautiful white. and this is the first time she's seen him in wolf form.
Yeah, like stayed by her.
So she wakes up from that, sees the wolf, and then they end up cuddling. And then she wakes up.
It's
and
cute.
It is. It's like sentimental. You know what I mean?
You're like, finally, like.
Yeah. So I feel like
just,
that brought them closer, right? Because after that, now he's like, well, you're not leaving my side. Like,
oh, you know what else we kind of forgot before she goes to Emery's? She's gonna hack into Lo's computer. She's like, I gotta find some things out about my friend.
You're right.
So she, like, that's another reason why they find out. Like,
the funny thing is we kind of skipped over the whole like premise of like what Misery is wanting to do.
Exactly. But also, like, we're just so excited.
And, like, the love.
Because Lo and Misery were just cute, okay?
So you're right.
But so
before that, she's trying to figure out about her friend, and Lo catches her and was like, what are you doing?
Well, he's a wolf, a werewolf. He's gonna smell you.
Yeah.
And he thinks, at this point, she thinks, obviously, that she thought she stunk.
Correct.
And she's, like, going through his drawers and everything. And she does find a sketch of herself in his undies drawer. Just kidding, in the bottom drawer.
It could be his undies.
I don't know. I think he makes a joke that she went through his drawer.
Because I would.
Are you an undie sniffer?
I would for him.
Yeah, I like Lo. I'd rather have him in the undies.
I'd sniff that too.
Oh, man. Okay, but anyway, so, like, her whole point is to find Serena. And then at some point, like, she ends up telling Lo.
Yeah,
finally. And so he ends up helping her, which I think is another reason why they start to get closer.
Well, that's where they find out that it wasn't actually Lo.
Yeah.
It was Anna, but it was Liliana is her real name.
So it's his sister's initials. So he's like, so now they're on the same page to figure out who knows, because nobody should know about Anna.
So we find out that Anna's dad was
human,
was part of a werewolf human alliance that worked on the border of the lands, and so they're thinking Serena knows who this is.
Yep.
Well, so they go to the governor's house to be like, hey,
what's up?
Like, where is this guy? Like, who is it?
Oh, you know what else we forgot? Misery thinks that Lo has a mate, and that's who was traded to the vampires. So she went to the wolves, and then she thinks that Lo has a mate. So she's trying to hold back, but she doesn't understand her feelings for him.
We have notes.
But we forget. We get excited. We have
them. Obviously, we don't follow them, people.
I was even following it, kind of. I just didn't write some of the other notes on there. To me, these make sense. They might not make sense to you because I wrote them.
There is nothing on here about the mate part.
Well, I thought I would remember. I'm sorry.
Hardcore, not even a single thing about
it. Okay, anyways. Quiet over there.
So that's...
But she does. Misery's like, how can we feel this way about each other when he has a mate? Because she asks a lot of questions.
Yeah, she's wanting to know about about the pack. Like, obviously she's there to live. So they go to the governor's house for dinner, and the guy's like, "Oh, he's
drunk
dead."
Like all the time.
Yeah, the governor's like, "Oh yeah, he's dead. Like, I killed him. I killed Anna's dad."
Oh wait, he tells her at the wedding. The governor's the one that tells her that Lo has a mate because they made I can't remember the gal's name, but that's why she thinks is because the governor was drunk at the wedding and was like, "Oh yeah, like because it had to be somebody close to you." So.
Yeah. So.
Okay, sorry. Finish.
No, you're good. So they find out that Anna's dad is dead. The governor killed him, and so they leave. And then they're like, "Do you want to go?" Well, Lo is like, "You lived here on here, so do you want to go to your old apartment? Show me."
Yeah.
And they go, and they fuck. So
yeah.
I'm ready to get down to the nitty gritty.
So like you're sitting here and you're like, it's about damn time.
And
like,
all throughout this, you're like, oh my god, they're fucking mates.
Yes. Like you're thinking, but nothing's
mate, right? Like,
and Misery is thinking in her head, and so she's coming to these conclusions. She's like, well, this is all the information he's given me about like what mates feel, what they're like, and she's like, I am, and I think I want to be. She's like, you know what I mean? And so she's like, there's no way. And
so they're at their apartment, right? And she's like, just do it. Like, put it in, right? Like, just let's fuck. And he's like, well, I don't want to hurt you. Like, we can't, because if I get too far, I'm going to
Go for it. It's yours.
I love this. Love this. I'm going to not. And if you know anything about the dog chemistry, it's when they
Dallas.
do you want me to say it?
I don't know. I'm just laughing. Go ahead.
When they jizz, when I squirt a load, it's what they call a knot. This is so inappropriate. So take my fingers as the pee-pee, as the penis, and then my hands as the knot, right? So at first it's just the penis.
Maybe you could have just let people just look it up.
I'm already balls deep.
So you know what? You guys, I'm so sorry. We're gonna get flagged.
Look it up. It's called a knot.
Anyways.
Well, he doesn't end up knotting inside of her. He ends up on her back, and she's like, "I think I'm your mate. Am I your mate?" And he goes,
and does a 180, and you're like, "What the fuck, Lo? You're so mad. You're like, Lo, what? Like, you love her. We know you love her." And he just like walks away.
Yep. And he's like, "Somebody will come pick you up."
I'm like,
and leaves her at the apartment.
Yeah, Mick. Isn't it Mick?
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, and just tries to get her feelings together. And like in your brain, you're like, this is so not what Lo. This isn't Lo's personality. Yeah, this is weird.
Him.
And like, I kind of had to be like, what just happened? Like, I was like, this is confusing. And so then Mick ends up picking her up, and she's just like in her head, so she's not paying attention really, like whatever. And then what does Mick do?
Mick poisoned her.
Right in her neck.
Oh, thank you.
With a syringe.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And she...
Yeah, so...
Then when she wakes up, she finds out that she is an addict.
And who's there?
No other than Serena.
Her best friend.
And at this point, I'm like, oops, Serena's the real villain here. In my head, yeah. I'm thinking Serena's a villain.
Like something's weird.
Like something strange. And I am just like...
I didn't think that, but I could see why you thought that.
I'm instantly thinking like, oh, she's with Serena right now, right? Like, Mick was a werewolf. She's digging into werewolf business. I was like, oh, she's a villain, but she's also a werewolf, and she's been hiding it this whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm texting Carly. I'm like, pick up your phone, bitch. Like, I have to
tell you this.
And so I keep on reading. Finds out that she was kidnapped. They end up breaking out. Serena had been there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
They end up breaking out of the room by tricking a guard.
They basically try to what's called thrall them, which is like when they look in their eyes and can tell them, like, you know.
Compulsion.
Yes. Did you think it was a little anticlimactic? Because I thought they were going to have to fight their way through.
Oh, for sure.
But they also did drop a tiny bit of a bomb on you, because when they get out of there, what do they see? Where are they at?
They are actually in the hive, which is...
Go ahead.
Ladies first.
The vampire, like, compound. The building that her dad and the vampires.
And live.
Yeah. So at that point, one of, like, the second in command or whatever to her dad, like, comes and gets her, and they go into the...
his office.
Yeah. And she's like, Misery has a brother that she talks to periodically. They have kind of a weird relationship.
They're twins.
Yeah. Anyways, she ends up basically learning that
Serena is a hybrid, a half human, half werewolf.
Same as Anna, and her dad basically set everything up. And the poison was meant for her.
Correct.
Which you find out, and you're like, and you know she doesn't necessarily feel anything towards him. She didn't grow
There's
up there.
There's no fatherly love.
Yeah, like he's just like, you do. And like the vampires, they just are like, the way they think is you do things for the many. You don't do things for the individual.
Correct.
You know, and so that was like, and then the brother Owen, anyways, basically wants to take over for the dad. And so at this point, and he had talked to Misery about this, and you kind of think that maybe Misery thinks that he lied to her and all that stuff.
Because what you find out is that Mick is like the head security guard for her dad, and he's been an insider in like Lowe's pack that you're like betrayal.
What? I'm just reading my notes and I'm just dying because sometimes the way I was like, finally, in all caps, Misery goes back to let Serena run with Juno. Oh shit. And then I said he gets busy with Lo and is not. I'll cut it out.
She's jumping the gun, people.
I just can't. I'm just laughing. Okay, well, I'll cut it.
No, you're fine. Anyways, you don't need to cut it because we can keep on going.
This is our chaotic.
We are chaotic AF. Anyways, Lo gets brought in by her brother Owen.
So then she thinks that maybe Lo betrayed her too. Like in her head, like I'm pretty sure that if I remember right, that she's just like, what the hell? Thinks that but Owen ends up telling Lo kind of what happened, and he trusted Mick, so he obviously didn't know that Mick was doing that. But we find out that her dad has Mick's son.
Correct. That's why Mick is doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this point, you actually find out that Misery is Lo's mate.
Mm-hmm.
And that he lied to Misery, and she's like, "Are you sure? Like, are you like?" And he won't make eye contact. And,
yep. Well, and then at this point, like, this is when you like find out for sure that Serena is a wolf.
Correct, because she shifts.
Yeah, and they find out, and she says something to Misery about how I found out that they shift at, what, 25?
25. So
she's trying to code telling her that she can shift. So she does, and she launches herself at her dad.
Correct, and then that's when Owen releases Lo, and he shifts also, and
basically like rip him, like,
well, we don't really even know because
I wanted to.
There was no battle. There was no battle.
I wanted the battle.
It was very anticlimactic.
A couple people died,
but not the dad, unfortunately.
Yeah, but like you wanted them to rip him up, and they do kind of mess him up, but he's still alive. So you're like, but why didn't you just kill him? You know.
So,
anyways, after that, she ends up staying in the compound with Serena. They're a little traumatized, obviously. And Serena thinks that she's going to hate her because she didn't tell her. She didn't tell Misery. And this whole time she hasn't seen Lo. Right? So, at some point, she's finally like, where's Lo? Like, what's going on? He went back to the compound. And she's like, you know what? I've had enough. I know that he wants to be my mate. Like, I know. And so she ends up taking Serena back with her at to the compound, and she ends up going, and this is the part, finally goes back to let Serena run with Juno, and walks in, and her bedroom's boxed up. And she's like,
what's going on?
I guess I'm not welcome here anymore. So she's had enough. She's pissed off. She goes stomping to go, doesn't she go find him? Go find Lo, or does Lo show up in the...
I think Lo shows up in the bedroom.
But she's bugged.
And she's like, he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I live here. Like, this is my house.
Yeah. And she's felt more at home with him.
Obviously, not anymore. And then he basically tells her, like, oh, well, I was actually just boxing it up because I was changing the windows.
So that she could
live there during the day.
Because she was sleeping in the closet, like, the whole book, which is hilarious. But...
because of the windows that she's seen at the vampire place, about how they're like cop windows, right? So nothing can see in. You can only see out, and like the sun doesn't come in.
And that's when she gets busy with his knot.
Oh yeah. Yep. They get down and dirty and do the knot like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. That was a great scene as well.
Yep. And that's basically how the book ends.
Yeah, like they end up
they finally fuck.
Mm-hmm, and they end up like redoing the bedroom. And everything,
because
and it's like,
she moves, obviously. She moves into Lo's room because they're married.
Yeah, and then Anna like
moves back into her old room, which was Misery's.
So then they're like talking and stuff, and then Cohen, the friend, is there to bring obviously Anna back, and the book ends. Basically, you're like, oh, this is so cute, and then Cohen walks in and sees Serena.
Yep, and instantly freezes. And
Lo's looking at him because this is like, in Lo's perspective, correct?
Yeah, correct. And he's like, "Oh, well, this will be interesting." Because Cohen is like, "Oh, my life just turned hell."
Yep, and you're like, "Oh,"
and that's how the book ends. And
you don't know.
You're like, "Ooh, they're mates, aren't they?"
That's the vibe she gave, but she didn't confirm it.
Correct. So we'll have to see if we ever get a book 2.
Yeah, it did remind me just of like contemporary romance, how they'll have like brothers or whatever, and it's like each book is like a different brother, or like, you know what I mean?
So like ACOTAR.
Yeah, kind of.
Cassian gets with Nesta.
Yeah.
We kind of think, you know what I mean, like Azrael with Elaine.
Better be.
But yeah.
I've seen way too many theories on that. Anyways, but yeah. So now that we have spoiled the whole book for you, like we usually do.
Very true.
Hope you liked learning about knots.
This is an educational video.
This is terrible.
Educational. Look it up if you want to know.
Literally.
I find it in this book it was hot.
I didn't hate it.
So.
But I don't feel like the spice was like anything.
No.
Like it was like a 1. Nothing too
Spice
crazy.
Is a 1.
And I don't read like tons of like.
She doesn't know spice.
Daz tells me I don't, and it's not that I'm against it, but like I also don't want to read erotica, so I don't though.
You do.
I like a plot line.
You like a plot line with erotica.
Not erotica though.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna tell me what I like now?
Yep.
All right.
You'll find out.
Oh God. Okay. You'll find out more here soon, I guess.
Yes.
In our other videos, because I'm about ready to read a series that Dallas is like so stoked for me to start. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for following along. Like always, we ramble and
we don't ever go on our lists.
No.
We talk dirty. We're educational.
Yeah. AF. Yeah. What was that?
And we spoil everything for you people.
Always. But like, how do you talk about the book without spoiling?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we should probably say bye now.
Bye.
Bye, guys.